These roads weren't built for bicycles, but today the toughest cyclists in the world will ride the fabled cobble climbs of Belgium in a war of which only one can win. Some will be forced to dismount their machine and walk. Others will fall victim to the rough terrain. A victory here secures a rider's place in history and enables his name to live on as a legend of the sport. Once again, the field is full of favourites, each capable and each with as much desire as the next. Two-time winner Tom Boonen is already a cycling god, but would love to please his fans once more on Belgian soil. Last year's winner Alessandro Ballan returns as a marked man, with over 200 others watching his every move. American George Hincapie has dreamed of a classic win since childhood. And Team CSC's Fabian Cancellara, he's riding like a programmed machine this year. Cyclism Sundays brings you the 92nd edition of the brutal Tour of Flanders, next on Versus. This is the beautiful town of Bruges in Belgian Flanders, and this the home of the start of the 92nd edition of the Ronde van Vlaanderen, the Tour of Flanders. There's a threat of hail in the air, there is sun on the way, but this could be a very special day in what is a very special race. Hello everybody, Phil Liggett alongside me, Paul Sherwin, and welcome now to Cyclism Sundays, presented by Hampton Hotels. Paul, this is the event all of Belgium come out to watch.
Well, to put it into perspective, this is the largest annual sporting event in Belgium. More than 500,000 and up to 1 million people can watch this race on the roads of Flanders. But it's what the Belgians like to know as a test of the real Flandrians. And with weather conditions like the weather conditions we're expecting today, it really is going to be a true test.
It's also the second round of the Pro Tour. The first round was in the Tour Down Under in Australia a long time ago, back in the opening weeks of the year in January. The course, a familiar one to us here. It starts on a flat road, it takes us out to the coast, but it finishes, of course, with 17 small hills. We call them bergs. Take us through the course.
Well, as you said, Phil, it starts in Bruges. It is 150 kilometres of flat race until we get down to the area of the mountains of Flanders, and then it completely undulates, crisscrosses, and the riders barely know where they're going on the way down to the finish in Ninove. For me, the most important climbs, though, are the first big climb is the Haute de Quaremont. That's 2.2 kilometres long, followed by the very steep Paterberg. The Koppenberg is back in the race again. The Kapelmuur, or the Muur de Grammont, is the penultimate climb of the day, and where everybody thinks that the race is going to be decided is finally down on the Bosberg with just 10 kilometres left to the race.
The climbs themselves are very steep, but not very high, of course. We only go up to a few metres above sea level, and all of the top riders are here. Now, there's only one or two riders won this race over 3 times, and one man trying to equal that is Tom Boonen, and it might be his day today. Paul, take us through some of the favourites.
Well, Alessandro Ballan, the winner of last year, is a man who's always ridden well up in the northern part of Europe. He's not really been shining so far this year, but I think he's hiding his game. He's a man to count on. And the man that all of Belgium wants to do well is Tom Boonen, who's chasing to write his name into the history books and win this race for a 3rd time, like so many of the big great riders of the past. And of course, don't discount America's George Hincapie riding for Team High Road. A different team for George Hincapie this year, but I have a feeling Hincapie is definitely inspired to perform well in Flanders.
Hincapie loves these classics, and I know all America would like him to win a real big one. There are other big names as well. A man returning to form after yet another injury is Magnus Bagstedt, the former winner of Paris-Roubaix. He's a strong man on this type of event. He's just finished second in a time trial in the recent Depanne, which isn't very far away from where we're standing right now. Other big names to watch out for are Leif Hoste, 3 second places for him. One day he might get across the line first. Fabian Cancellara, Paris-Roubaix last year, a man bang top of his form again, this time with a win in Milan-San Remo. Pizzato, another top Italian. Tor Hushoff, the sprinter, not so sure he'll make the finish to use his sprint. And also the goose, Vladimir Gusev, another man who can do well. We're looking now at the head of the field here. They have caught the four-man break of the day. They're all together. They've fought valiantly to hold front position. Hincapie is up near the leaders. Eric Zabel's peeping into the left of our picture. Also up at the front here is Tom Boonen and Alessandro Ballan, last year's winner. Look how narrow the road is. This is now the approach to the old Quaremberg.
Well, Old Quaremont as it is, in fact. And I tell you what, all of the big names moving up to the front. It was a massive battle to get in here. Here is the acceleration starting right now. They're onto the cobblestones. This is the steepest part of the Old Quaremont. There's 1.6 kilometers of cobblestones, although the climb itself is 2.2 kilometers in length. The steepest part, Phil, is right here at 11.6%. And this is where the race normally splits up for the first time. And once they go over the summit of this climb in 4 kilometers, they got another nasty climb called the Paddestraat.
Which is why they'll keep the pressure on. We're already hearing calls from the race cars behind that riders are stopping at the rear of the peloton. We may not see pictures of that, but the riders on the front now are tapping out the rhythm, and this is already beginning to split the field. It looks like we've got Flecha in second place for Rabobank.
Well, we talked at the start about the weather conditions. At the start, the weather was pretty fine. At the finish here, there is no rain on the ground, but out on the course, as you can see, it's raining intermittently. There's a bit of snow coming down. Now and again, there are hailstones, and that is battering onto the riders' bodies and their legs and thighs, and you can see the wind rippling in the flags of Flanders there. This is going to be a tough test. This is making the race, which is a tough race to start with, even more difficult.
Well, Team High Road have got control of the breakaway and at the head of the peloton just behind. Hincapie has held a very good position. They'll take a lot of confidence in the team riding from that. Just take a look at those cobblestones now, because this is how difficult they are at this stage of the race. I think it's Westphal who's there for the Gerolsteiner team. And there's the steep part at the moment.
Well, there's a little cafe that Phil always talks about over on the left-hand side there, but there's not very many people here stopping for a little cup of coffee here this afternoon. Now, this to me, Phil, is always the toughest part here of the older Quaremont, because this is the town of Quaremont, and it now drags up in a false flat for about 1.2 kilometers. What makes it more difficult is not really the gradient, it's the fact that you've got a very nasty wind battering across the road, making it difficult for the riders. Looks like Thomas Weitkus here on the front here for Team Astana, not selected yet for the Tour de France, and they're hoping to allow their legs to do the talking over the next few months and try and persuade the organisation ASO to let them into the race with the defending champion Alberto Contador and the defending third place finisher Levi Leipheimer.
Well, this is the tempo we expected on the Quaremont, and this is where it is starting to split up. It's only a 4-star. The hills are judged 1 to 5 stars, by the way. The Muur, the wall at Kapelmuur, the church wall, that gets 5 stars. Hill number 16, the last climb, the Bosberg, gets 4 stars, probably because it's a strategic position near the end. But you're looking out along what are most certainly now the bleak fields of Flanders here, as the Tour of Flanders is pulled out into a long straight line. Every man for himself, even if they are riding shoulder to shoulder, as they try to control this race. They came to the foot of the climb all together.
Riding up at the front there in second position is Tom Boonen, I can see, followed by Leif Hoste. There's the acceleration on the older Quaremont and the pressure coming down from Team Astana. Johan Bruneel, Phil, said to me yesterday, no pressure on my squad here this afternoon. All we're going to do is ride a race to enjoy it. We may well look out for Gusev down towards the end because he's a tough competitor, but looking over his shoulder here, he can see the damage that's being done, and coming across, that looks to me as if it may well be an acceleration from Leif Hoste.
The old Quaremont, and it looks as though it is Leif Hoste. The man has finished second on 3 occasions, trying to get up with the leaders here. Now that is going to cause a lot of riders here now to react to this man who is on a mission. He's trying desperately to replace the memories of 3 second places with a win, going up towards the leaders, checking on seeing just what's going on here as he joins the leaders now. And we've got 4 riders clear.
Well, in fact, as they go through the feeding station here, you can see the little acceleration coming across. This is the Ronde van Vlaanderen Straat, and that was an acceleration coming across there by Tom Boonen, who's come up to make this a 5-man leading group with Johan van Sommeren as well. So Leif Hoste has got himself a little bit of friends there, and as you can see, the main field scrambling to stay in contact.
Well, I think it's reasonable to say now that the Tour de Flanders has taken a couple of hours, but now it has really begun. Welcome back to the 92nd Ronde van Vlaanderen. Well, before the start this morning, Paul Schoen was down amongst it, and here he is now talking with Tom Boonen.
Tom, you've had a fairly quiet week this week, but everybody's saying that your legs are ready for the Tour of Flanders today.
Yeah, I'm ready. This is my first real big objective. For the first time in my career, I tried to do nothing in front of Flanders. I just tried to focus, be 100% fresh, not get anything else in my mind. Don't get worried about other races, and it's worked out. I'm feeling really good.
So Paul Tom Boonen changing his approach to his training schedule, but I think he's looking for number 3 today.
I tell you one thing, Phil, he had a serious glint in his eye there just before the start. I think this man knows exactly how his form is for today.
And here we are on the next climb of the day now. This is the 4-star Paterberg with that steep 20% gradient right in the middle. The group is still clear from the Old Quaremont, but let's face it, Paul, it is still a very, very big group here. But Johan van Summeren driving on the front, Boonen on the right.
We are 75 kilometres to go to the finish, and you're already looking at the heads of state. Boonen, as you've said, is there on the right-hand side. There is Alessandro Ballan in the pink. There is George Hincapie in the white jersey, in the white helmet. Leif Hoste is over to the left-hand side. There, in fact, in the second row as well is Fabian Cancellara. The big boys are showing their faces at the front with 2 hours of racing still to go.
But they've no choice, because if you lose position, you lose the race. You can't shadow box in the Tour of Flanders. There is the pack now, slowly getting strength from behind. The riders in the far distance still recovering from the previous climb, the Old Quaremont. We've seen one CS rider go over into a ditch. We're not sure who he was. We think it was Lars Back, who went over there, out of the race. But very impressive so far, Tom Boonen. Sitting at the front here. Now he's stamping his authority on this climb as well as he comes up towards the summit. It's not very long, the climb. It was pretty steep. So first man out is Tom Boonen, looking for 3, remember, to join the greats of our time in the Tour de Flanders.
Well, that's the way to do it, to dominate the climb. There's his teammate going through, the champion of Belgium, Stijn Devolder. The difficult thing about where we are at the moment, Phil, is in just 6 kilometres from the summit of this climb, they've got to get to the summit of the Koppenberg. Again, not a very long climb, just 600 metres. It doesn't sound very much when you say it quickly, but this is a steep climb coming up next, because that is 22% the gradient at its maximum part.
And all about 50 riders are on the back heels here, just trying to repair damage rather than take part in the race, which is going to make it difficult for them. The Koppenberg is a 5-star climb, as you say, Paul. It's one of the toughest. It's well known in the Tour de Flanders, as the field here continues to rattle over the Paterberg.
Well, it's a question of survival now. It's a question of trying to get yourself back into the race once you've been tailed off the back on a climb like the Old Quaremont. And these riders here in these groups will be playing zigzag all of the time. Leif Hoste over on the left-hand side. Tom Boonen there on the right-hand side, just making contact with 1 or 2 spectators. But these men are going mano a mano, as they say in the sport of professional cycling. Number 71 there is Laszlo Bodrogi. He's better suited as a great individual time trialist. He's at the back of the group now as they go over the summit here of the Paterberg.
No lead out for Thor Hushoff from Laszlo. I don't think he's going to get back here. It was good to see the image there of George Hincapie in the second line over the top. He's concentrating well and he's riding well, and we think there might be something in George today. He's not been, apart from his stage 7 win in the Amgen Tour of California, the last day victory for him on what was a very wet day, but a terrific victory for him. We're now looking for him coming good here. Similar conditions, actually, probably very, very slightly warmer, but only slightly. So we're looking down at the leaders here now as they continue to drive towards the next challenge of the day, which is the Koppenberg, and that is 5-star. In 2 weeks, it's the ultimate test of man and machine, and there's a reason. It's called the Hell of the North. Join us for coverage of Paris-Roubaix, April 20th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Cyclism Sundays, presented by Hampton Hotels, only on Versus, the home of the Tour de France. We are looking down from the helicopter now on the leading group here in the Tour de Flanders. It's 12 from around about 35 to possibly a few more than 50. Another 9 are rejoining at the back, and it's 50-second spread now from here back to the next main peloton. It's all happened on the Paterberg. We're still bound for the Koppenberg, which is the next big climb with a steepest gradient of 22%. We're turning onto it now, and this is a very select group, and they'll work hard now to break off the rest of this race.
Well, just to tell you about the Koppenberg, it's only 600 meters long, but it's at 22% the maximum gradient, 11.6% is the average, and it is all cobblestones. It's actually been relaid over recent years because it was coming much too dangerous to use, but it is a phenomenal climb. It's a dangerous climb, and a lot of riders putting very low gears on, 25-tooth sprocket for some of the riders. Tom Boonen is there on the front, followed by Juan Antonio Flecha. There is Leif Hoste. Hincapie's not far away either.
Stijn Devolder, the champion of Belgium. Where else should you be when your country's national champion is right on the front on this most revered climb of the Tour of Flanders? Tom Boonen on the right there, keeping in the saddle. You've got to stay in the saddle. If you get out of the saddle, you lose control of your bike, you know, finish up leaning against the wall, which on this occasion is grass. Looking down the group here now as well, we know Alessandro Ballan, last year's winner, is still up here. Look at the strength of Boonen here. He just uses those shoulders, those huge thigh muscles. He stamps on the pedals. He's too strong for the race right now.
Well, this is a show of defiance. This is me, Tom Boonen, showing you guys how strong I am here this afternoon. This is the only way to ride this climb. There's no easy way. You can't hide back. You can't hold into the main field here. You've got to show how strong you are, and you can only ride up at your maximum speed. There's Sylvain Chavanel a little bit further back. Over on the right-hand side in the green is Thor Hushoff. This, Phil, is a great show of form by Tom Boonen.
But there are still 10 more climbs after this one is over before we get on the road towards the finish in Meerbeke. Stijn Devolder, another good ride from him here. Once a teammate of Tom Boonen. Now he's trying to just keep up with him as the world champion, ex-world champion, albeit, stamps out a superb rhythm. His face here, one of contentment, I think, one of concentration. Look at the face of Stijn Devolder. He's grimacing under the pressure.
He has to stay there, though, because he's a teammate of the man who's shown that sign of form there. He's the big teammate of Tom Boonen, followed there by Flecha. Next along there is Fabian Cancellara, then Philippe Gilbert, then Leif Hoste, then Alessandro Ballan. All of the big names moving to the front.
Little split forming as they come up towards the top of the Koppenberg now. And Quick Step in the driving seat here. This is Leif a little bit lower down. One or two not pushing with great enthusiasm right now, because this is going back 30 years in the Tour de Flanders. The weather's turned against them. The roads are soaking wet. The back wheels are spinning. It's time to walk.
But look at the difference between this man and the guys we were just looking at. He's climbing here with pure power. Dominance, this looks like to me, from Tom Boonen here this afternoon as he looks over his shoulder just to check and see what sort of damage he's done. But as you said, he knows in the back of his mind, Phil, there are still 10 climbs to go.
And here we go, stop and start at the rear of the field. The Shimano rider there is Kenny van Hummel, who's decided to walk, along with a lot of riders here now. It's about this time of day when they're beginning to wish there must be an easier way of earning a living than being a professional bike rider.
Thomas Vogler is in this group as well, over on the right-hand side in the pale blue jersey of Bouygues Telecom. And this really just gives you an indication of what this climb is like. The reason they're having to walk, by the way, is because once you lose traction, you can't actually restart on a road like this because it's too slippy. It's too steep, too slippy, and impossible to get going again.
And it's always the rider in front whose fault it was. It's never yours, is it?
Oh, it's never your fault. It's always somebody else's. And the tough thing is you've got to get yourself to the slightly flatter part of the course, get riding again, get your mind back into gear, and realize you've got a long chase to try and get back into this race, because everybody has a teammate in the race and you have a responsibility to your guys in front.
Well, this is now the back end of the field. The chances are the back end of the field will not see the front end anymore today. We're now gone up to the head of the race, the Kop van de Wedstrijd, and it looks as though it's thinned down again to a handful of riders here. Well, as we come over the top of the Koppenberg, we've reduced the field yet again. It's going to happen every time we go over a climb. And there I remind the riders there are still 10 more climbs to come. Welcome back. We're with the Ronde van Vlaanderen today, but earlier Paul Sherwin spoke with a man who could well surprise today, Magnus Bagstedt of Team Slipstream Chipotle.
Well, Magnus, this is one of the big days. This is what being a professional bike rider is all about, the Ronde van Vlaanderen.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can just look at the crowds out here today. You know it's a special day in Belgium, and you can definitely feel the race days coming on. So I'm looking forward to it.
A lot of pressure on your shoulders, but surely you're thinking a little bit forward to Paris-Roubaix, although this is a great bike race to win too.
Oh, definitely. I mean, if I can get up there today, I'll take the chances and the risks necessary to be there. But the big focus is on next weekend. So we'll see what happens today.
Bit of a learning process as well for Team Slipstream Chipotle. For a lot of these young guys, they really are not going to know what's hitting them.
No, I think we only have actually 2, maybe 3 guys that have ridden the race before. So, they're out for a big shock today, but I think they'll learn from it and walk away stronger.
There's another crash up. These guys are going down.
Oh. Well, we're looking down now at a fallen rider here as they're about to tackle the climb of the Steenbeek Dries. And that was a very nasty fall indeed. He clipped the right-hand curb there and he tore his wheel to shreds, and it's a Sony Duval rider. I don't think, but it could have been Angel Gomez, who was sitting at the back of the group, but he's certainly down there and he looks a little bit stunned.
You know, that's the thing about this race. You have got to be alert. There is no moment of relaxation at all when these riders are riding in a race like this, and he went down so hard he didn't even have time to react.
Well, sadly, it was Angel Gomez who fell. Here's where it happens again. Obviously, he was riding head down. He didn't see that. What a nasty shock that was as well. Ripped his wheel clean out of the frame and smashed it to pieces. He had a mechanical problem and he was waiting for help, but now he needs a complete new bike if he's continuing. Back to the 2 leaders.
Well, this is, Phil, as we'd said a little earlier, going to be a monumental, legendary day, I feel, here this afternoon.
It is.
There has been so many incidents so far, and we're certainly an awful long way to go to the finish. We're now looking at this very difficult climb here. This is a 15.8% maximum. This is the Tyenberg. It's 530 meters long, and it's an average grade of 6.6%. But again, this is a very famous climb in the Ronde van Vlaanderen.
Sebastian Langeveld, Rabobank, trying to soften the field up, I feel, in favour of Juan Antonio Flecha. But Langeveld has been at the front all day today, dictating affairs. Let's take a look down in amongst the folks here. The cyclists, the one in the coloured jerseys, by the way, as they get between a huge crowd here on the Steenbeek Dries.
This is actually, we move forward. We went over the Steenbeek Dries pretty rapidly. This, in fact, is the Tyenberg. This is Langeveld on the front. As we look back there, we can see it's all starting to come back together. Langeveld has only got himself about a 10-second advantage over the front end of the main field, who are, I think, giving him a little bit of freedom, but they will accelerate over the top of Tyenberg here. Then they will, fortunately, Phil, have a little bit of respite for about 8 kilometers, because that's the length of time it is before they'll now get to the 10th climb, the Berge te Stene climb, which is a climb of 1.3 kilometers.
So good move then by Sebastian Langeveld. Got off to a good start. He enjoys racing in Belgium. He finished second in Kuurne, Brussels Kuurne, very early on in the year, last month in fact, and now he's up here in the head of the field. It's going to be a long day for these riders, even so. Tyenberg is hill number 9 of 17. Langeveld proving he's pretty strong right now. Turned pro only a couple of years ago. He's only 23 years of age, this guy, and yet he's already won 11 races.
Well, there you go. Langeveld comes round the top of that climb with about a 2-meter advantage over Stijn Devolder. Devolder, the national champion of Belgium, I think this afternoon, will be sacrificing his own chances for Tom Boonen, who we've seen has already, Phil, demonstrated he's in fine form for the Ronde van Vlaanderen here today, looking for win number 3.
Already the World Cup holder has gone. This is Stijn Devolder here now, just trying to bring a little bit of semblance of common sense to this race. There's still a long way to go. Well, the Grand National, the famous horse race in Great Britain, was held yesterday. That's over the fence. It's said to be the toughest horse race in the world, and horses are always going down along with the jockeys. I always think of this race as being like the Grand National. If you can stay on your bike and master the conditions, you have a real good chance at winning.
You have to be alert, though. You have to stay near the front, make sure that you avoid any ill luck. We don't know for the moment, because race radio is not telling us what the position in the race is of Leif Hoste. He had a mechanical incident, and I tell you one thing, I think he'll be having a very hard chase to pull himself back into a chance of winning the Ronde van Vlaanderen after 3 second places.
Well, it looks like it's time for a break now, because these riders have all come back together again. Poor old Angel Gomez is lying in the road about 2 kilometers behind them, but the big strong men of this year's Tour de Flanders are still right there on the front. This is the catch here of Oscar Freire. He's been away for about 10 kilometers, a maximum lead of 40 seconds. He's put back into the head of the peloton, which currently is about 25 riders strong, with a group of 50, including Leif Hoste, trying to bridge the gap. They were almost on 2 kilometers ago, and it's gone out to about 15 seconds again.
Well, they haven't yet been able to make the junction because of the repetitive nature of all of these climbs. We're now here comfortably on the Leiberg, 950 meters, 13.8% at the maximum for an average of 4.2%. And still, Stijn Devolder was a man who last year was one of the stalwarts of Team Discovery Channel, snapped up immediately by Team Quickstep, and he's actually riding away from the field here.
Well, I have to say he's riding superbly, Stijn Devolder, and continuing to push the pace. He's been at the front almost every time. He's throwing all his energy to the wind, and it's in favour, I'm sure, of his team leader, Tom Boonen.
Frédéric Guédon is the rider coming. No, it's not. In fact, it's Philippe Gilbert has seen this as a serious gap, and he realizes that was a nice tactical move by Tom Boonen there. Let the gap go and let everybody else come up with the pace making. Look at the face here of second place rider Philippe Gilbert, and I think you can see just how difficult so far the race has been. We're looking at the top of this climb at 48 kilometers to go. That's still 30 miles of racing for Devolder and Philippe Gilbert.
He won this year, by the way, the overall classification in a much sunnier race on much better roads, the Tour de Algarve in Portugal. And he ran out that by virtue of his brilliant ability to ride a time trial, because he won the stage 4 time trial. There's the gap coming together again. You could have been forgiven for a moment seeing that camera shot there, that we weren't commentating on Paris-Roubaix, but we're not. We're on the Tour de Flanders.
And the man chasing there at the front of that third group on the road was Leif Hoste in person, realizing now that he'd used up all of his teammates and the pressure was coming down to it, and he was having to take the responsibility of bridging that last 10 or 15 seconds on his own. Gilbert now riding now finally, Phil, with a lot of maturity. The first time I ever saw him was way down in South Australia in what was then the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under. He climbed up to get himself a stage victory ahead of his teammate Baden Cook. But I think in this last 12 months, he really has matured into a top-class rider.
But just watching, there's 3 good riders getting clear there at the moment, and Frédéric Guédon, the last Frenchman to pierce the top 6, and he did that in 2003. No Frenchman's been there since, so it looks as though he's finding his legs. He won Paris Tours a year or so ago, and he pops up and lands the big ones and then disappears for a while, but he's very, very experienced. Wants to get on with the job. Sebastian Langeveld just saying to Stijn Devolder, I'm not helping you. Yeah. Please go up and join the leader.
Well, Langeveld making the contact to get another group coming across there. Philippe Gilbert has nicely slipped into that leading group of 3. This is George Hincapie in the second group. And just trying to see who the CSC rider was who's made the junction as well. They're trying to ride across to the leading group of 3. This is going to be an incredible race here this afternoon, because there's no domination just yet, and Tom Boonen has taken a back seat, I think, to rest up and allow other people to start chasing to save himself for what would probably be a big move on the Mur de Grammont.
It might be a clever tactic, because with Stijn Devolder up there, why should Tom chase it down? Because Stijn looks as though he's quite capable at the moment of looking after himself. We'll see how it works out, but we're going to have 6 leaders here very, very shortly. This is Sebastian Langeveld at the back.
Well, he's come to the back because he's just heard all of a sudden that the man coming across there from Team Rabobank is his teammate Juan Antonio Flecha. So Flecha and George Hincapie are now riding across the gap, trying to make it a 6-man leading group.
Now that, I think, would spell trouble for Boonen. He's not going to sit back and watch this one move too much, I don't think. He'll have big respect for both Hincapie and Flecha. So very shortly we are going to have 6 riders in the lead here in the Tour de Flanders, and we've still got 6 more climbs to come. These 3 riders, with Carsten Kroon it is, not Flecha, Paul, who is getting on terms with the leader. We're looking now at the leaders here. They are forming 9 riders at the front. Frédéric Guédon, Stijn Devolder, Langeveld, Flecha, Hincapie and Carsten Kroon. And Stijn Devolder looking a little bit concerned that one Tom Boonen has not joined the leaders yet. Nick Nuyens and Simon Spilak also coming up here.
Well, I think now the attitude of Stijn Devolder will change. He'll move to the back of this group and he'll wait to see whether there's going to be a return by his team leader for the day, Tom Boonen. Boonen there sitting in second place. You can see we're now on the next climb of the day, and this is the climb of the Berendries. And there's the move by Tom Boonen. He doesn't want anybody going clear. Immediately chased there, Phil, by Fabian Cancellara of Team CSC.
It had to be here. He's waited for the road to go up to try and bridge the gap. It's going to all be shut down with another show of absolute powerhouse riding by the former world champion Tom Boonen. Steepest part of this course is 12.3%. It's not an absolute backbreaker, 3 stars, but look at the strength of Boonen.
But what it indicates is there are a lot of riders who are very tired in this group because nobody's responded. When you see Tom Boonen get out of the saddle, you have to respond if you've got anything. The only men capable of responding were Alessandro Ballan there just behind him, and Cancellara looks to me as if he may be cracking.
Well, this is another crucial moment in the race here as they now try to bridge the gap. If they can get 12 riders cleared, it might well be the beginning of the end for the rest of the race. Still working at the front here, the leader of the race, which is Langeveld, trying to once again to split up this race.
Well, Langeveld working for the rest of the team, but I tell you one thing, Fabian Cancellara was put into a little bit of difficulty there. He was unable to follow that acceleration. Just a little bit further up, you can see Tom Boonen, and he has now, just as we go over the top of the Berendries, joined the leading group. However, Fabian Cancellara had a little bit of difficulty there, but he should, Phil, recover over the top to join in a couple of minutes' time.
The Astana rider, by the way, who's gone across with him is Gregory Last. He's now joined the front runners as well. And this is developing, and it's not good enough, in fact, for Sebastian Langeveld, because he's going again, and he's causing them all the time to chase. Throughout the race today, Stijn has been working for Tom Boonen, but it's been the Rabobank boys who have caused the reactions behind.
They're trying to wear down Team Quickstep. They're trying to isolate Tom Boonen if they can, and this young man, Langeveld, has been absolutely phenomenal. He's not thinking about himself, as was Oscar Freire earlier on. They are thinking today that their man, Juan Antonio Flecha, has got the legs to win the Ronde van Vlaanderen, and what a story that would be.
Well, it certainly would. He'd become one of only 5 riders to have done it 3 times if he gets across the line. But looking over here now, we have got a nice little group of 9 or 10 riders here. Now they've got to pay a lot of attention because these boys are all formed on their pure strength. Not been a lucky breakaway, slipping away out of sight of the riders. Pure strength has got them to where they are. It could well be the beginning of the end for the rest of the riders here.
Absolutely.
Except one.
It's very difficult, this race right now, but I think the way Tom Boonen rode away from everybody there on the Langeveld, not the Berendries, it was an indication it is Pozzato trying to come across the gap. They've seen the importance. When you see Tom Boonen ride away, when you see Fabian Cancellara, you know this is the move. Everybody else is tired in this race. You've got to go and do it on your own now.
Oh, and the other rider stopped on the right there was the other liquid gas rider who was in the break, and he's dropped behind at the moment. So that'll be Spilak, I think, who's just fallen out of the action, but he's seen his team captain go forward, so that can't be all bad news at the minute.
Well, in fact, I think what happened there was he had a problem going around the corner.
So are we seeing now the beginning of the end for the rest of the riders in what is an extraordinary Tour de Flanders? This man is causing pain to everybody, and Sebastian Langeveld is trying to go clear again. Okay, well, as the race rolls on, we'll take a break, but when we come back, we'll take a closer look at America's best classics rider. I'm talking, of course, about George Hincapie. We'll see you in a moment.
And there's still those races that I have not won yet that are keeping me motivated to stay in the sport and to try to finally win a Roubaix or a Tour de Flanders. If I win one of those, then I can see what else is out there, maybe.
Welcome back to the Tour de Flanders. Well, George Hincapie is a man of the moment. This is his favourite time of the year, and he is now the subject of our Hampton Hotels athlete profile.
I've had a bunch of conversations with Bob Stapleton over the years, and we've always hit it off, and I have a lot of respect for him and his vision in cycling, and I just wanted to be part of that.
I respect and admire George Hincapie. I've watched his career for years. I think he's one of the most respected U.S. athletes in the sport. And I think he was attracted to what we're trying to do, and that is be a force for progressive change in the sport.
I really believe in Bob, and I think that he has a great vision for where the sport needs to be. All the testing that we do is also a good thing in these days in cycling to be so transparent, so I just wanted to be part of that movement.
And I was really happy that he decided to come to us versus all the other teams he might have gone to.
There is a crash at the back, and that, I think, is George Hincapie, the
Ouch.
US Pro Champion. He's holding his wrist there quite hard.
The Tour of California last year was, it's always fun to race in California. You know, unfortunately I had the accident with a day to go, so it kind of ruined my spring plans. But it just makes me more motivated this year to try to finally win one of them.
I think George brings a lot of experience. I think it's 13, 14 years as a professionalism now. You know, he's done a lot of Tour de France. He's won a lot of big races.
That's going to be a massive boost to the team to have a name like him in there, but on a personal level, he's such a nice guy, you know? He's just so down to earth. I'm happy and proud to be riding on the same team.
I think George is doing great. I mean, part of his personal motivation was for an environment change that would hopefully kind of spark another growth period for him. And that seems to be happening.
There's still those races that I have not won yet that are keeping me motivated to stay in the sport and to try to finally win a Roubaix or a Tour de Flanders. If I win one of those, then I can see what else is out there maybe.
Paul, let's face it, George is now coming up 35 years of age this June, so he's got to win this classic sooner or later.
I think he certainly has, but you know, in a race like the Tour of Flanders, sometimes it's experience that pays a lot more than youthful enthusiasm.
We join the lower slopes of climb number 13 here, the Valkenberg, a mere 2 stars, but significantly, Stijn Devolder has decided to try and go it alone. This breakaway has got quite a little lead now, as behind the field, including Leif Hoste, has regrouped. George Hincapie is in the breakaway, as too is Langeveld. Alessandro Ballan, the last to join them, last year's winner. A very, very select front group of 5 or 6 riders.
Well, in fact, the front end of the main field there just briefly being led by Rick Verbrugge. Now, he must certainly be working for Sylvain Chavanel, the Frenchman who is on form for Team Cofidis. This is Langeveld, followed by Devolder. Hincapie, I have to say, is riding a very good tactical race here this afternoon, and he's indicated as well that he's got the form to win this bike race.
He certainly has. The way he's ridden today, George Hincapie flying the flag for his new team. He's watched every move. I can't believe that Stijn Devolder can ride like this all the way to the finish. He's been leading up every climb today, doing work we thought Tom Boonen. Inexplicably, at the moment, Boonen has allowed some of the most dangerous riders in the race to go clear, and the group is not coming back as we pull back down the climb here to the start of the climb of the Valkenburg. There they are, look, and the reaction is not there. Nick Nguyen's on the front, and just no real chase here. Pizzato joined this group, hasn't gone forward. I think he has gone forward.
He has gone forward. We're at the finish line here, looking down on a damp road, although the rain has in fact disappeared and the clouds are starting to raise a bit. But these guys have been through all kinds of weather conditions here this afternoon. I think Tom Boonen may well be playing a very clever tactical game, because that leading group has just got about a 22-second advantage, and it puts pressure on a lot of the other teams to actually chase them down. Pizzato is in this second group on the road here this afternoon, as is Flecha there in about 5th position, and Boonen has the advantage, Phil, of at least having Stijn Devolder in that leading group of 5.
Well, that's a good point, but has he got the legs to take it through to the finish? Hincapie's rode a very clever race today. He's just been watching all the moves. Here we're looking at Stijn Devolder, number 27 at the back here, and his teammate here having a chat. Sorry, Leif Hoste, sorry, at the back, number 27, and wrong champion there, as we're now looking also at Martin Jalingi, who's a very good, strong rider himself. He's transferred to Silence Lotto this year and will prove a great teammate. But he's riding alongside Leif Hoste, and Leif Hoste not looking too happy with the way this race is shaping just now.
Well, he's had a long, hard chase, Leif Hoste, to get himself back into the race. He's got to try and recover and get some food down his neck over the next couple of kilometres, because we've still got some really serious climbs to go. They have gone over the top of the Valkenberg, and very shortly, and I'm working out at around about 6 kilometres, they got the famous climb of Ten Bos, followed by the Eikemolen, the Elke Windmill climb. Hincapie riding sensibly. There he is at the front there in his white jersey of Team High Road. A new team structure for him for the first time really in his career, while there are still incidents and accidents happening at the back end of the main field. And that rider from Team Middelram was Nicky Terpstra having a slight mechanical incident.
Well, those 5 boys up front could well have shaped this race for themselves here. It's now all down for them. Langeveld is the rider who did it. There's the balancing act of Nicky Terpstra. Trying to get a quick stop. He's looking for a wheel. I think it's a back one. Meanwhile, Liquigas, because they've realised, in fact, Pesaato's been dropped by that leading group, have now had to take up the chase. Langeveld, Hincapie, Devolder, Juan and Ballan. They're driving this race towards its conclusion. We're now looking for the 10 boss, a mere 1 star out of 5, and that's hill number 14.
Well, I tell you why. I think this is in fact tactically swinging to the advantage of Tom Boonen, because he's forcing other teams to come to the front. The fact that he's got the Belgian national champion in that group, Stijn Devolder, means that all of the other teams, are, of course, like Pepo Pozzaato's team, have got to come and do the work, and it takes pressure off Quickstep and Boonen. I think Boonen is thinking more about the Muur de Grammont, and he would like to see this race come back together just before Gerardsbergen.
Well, if you're in any doubt of which way to go in the Tour de Flanders, you just follow the left-hand turn, lined by the people here. 5 riders speed towards the 14th climb of the day, which is 10 boss, and in the front group is the American George Hincapie.
The Tour de Flanders is a 270-kilometer race with, I think, 15 cobblestone climbs and a couple of flat cobblestone sections.
Tour de Flanders, I think, is quite possibly my favorite race in the whole world, and the fans at Tour de Flanders are just insane.
The crowds are really quite unbelievable. You do the classics through all those weeks leading up to it, and then on that one particular day, it's just like everybody in Belgium turns out.
It's exciting because I know the roads, I know the weather, I know that part of the country pretty well, and to be able to now do it with the big boys would be a lot of fun.
But my dream, it's to win the Ronde van Vlaanderen in the Belgium race.
If I could win one race in my career, that might be the one I would want to win.
As we look now at the head here, this is the chasing group in the Tour de Flanders here, led by Liquigas and Cofidis, because the others, especially Team High Road, have got riders up front. We're heading towards the next climb, climb number 14 of 17 at 10 boss. And these are the leaders here. Sebastian Langeveld on the front for Rabobank. George Hincapie of Team High Road. Stijn Devolder. There's the gap, so the chase is still on, and it's actually quite violent right now. Also Karsten Kroon and the last year's winner, Alessandro Ballan. It's not sure it's going to work though, Paul, because that work is being done pretty strained by the boys from Liquigas and Cofidis.
I don't think it is going to work, because it's stretched up to around about the 22-second advantage, and now, just looking from the helicopter a few moments ago, I guesstimated that we were looking at probably 10 seconds advantage, and there was a serious chase organised in the front end of the main field. Not just one team, but several teams prepared to do the work on the front end of the main field. Will shortly turn now into the 10 boss climb, and that is a very difficult climb, the summit of which is only 31 kilometers to go. That's 18 miles of racing down to the finish, and I have a feeling that on the slopes of 10 boss we may well see the return of the big names into this bike race.
13 seconds, unlucky for some, maybe, and they're all looking over the shoulder here. It's saying goodbye to Robbie McEwen's hometown of Brakel as the riders move away here. And it looks a little bit more than 13 seconds, but not much more, as here come the cavalry around the corner. And they, of course, can now see, as the sun starts to pop out again behind the fluffy white clouds, they will see the leaders up ahead. I thought that was a great move. I think they're a little bit unlucky, Paul. The distance between the Valkenburg and the 10 boss has proved just a little bit too far.
Well, you have to judge everything to perfection in a bike race like this, and I wonder if Tom Boonen has pulled a clever tactical move there of slipping back and allowing everybody else to start to panic a bit. You've got George Hincapie in the front. We've also got our man there, Stijn Devolder. We've got Alessandro Ballan. So you guys, you get on with it and you chase, and I'll take a little bit of a breather for 10 or 15 kilometers, and I'll come back and I'll whack you on the Muur de Grammont.
But also the other clever team here today, for my money, is Rabobank. They've used every rider except the favourite on the team, which is Flecha, and he's still up there in the group. Let's not forget either, Leif Hoste has come back into the action. A very long chase, although he himself didn't use his energy up chasing. He relied on the peloton to do it for him. But he's back in the race here now, and I don't think it will be long before he gets up towards the front again.
This is the climb now of Ten Bos, 450 meters, not very much, but don't forget these guys have been riding in the saddle now for 233 kilometers. It's 9% in its steepest point and 7% is the average. I have a feeling, though, that George Hincapie, Phil, has ridden a very sensible race, and even if there is another move that goes on the day, Hincapie's got the legs to go with a second move if these 5 riders get caught.
Well, he's long enough in the tooth, he's experienced to know if you get caught, you try again. Not every move works first time, as long as he hasn't committed too much energy, and in fairness, he hasn't. He's done nothing more than just a little bit of a share of the work. He's waiting to see what develops before he shows his true strength. The man who's been absolutely brilliant so far is on the front now, Sebastian Langeveld. 22 and not 23 until December this year. He's a super talent for the future.
Yes, only his second year as a professional bike rider. There's the summit there of the big climb of Ten Bos, and there is the main field. We're looking probably at a 10 to 15 second advantage. I think what will right the end of the breakaway success is the combination of these two teams, Team Liquigas on the front and Team Cofidis, we've just seen Rick Verbrugge ride him very well, and obviously they feel their Frenchman Sylvain Chavanel has got the chance of winning this bike race here this afternoon. This race is still, I think, going to change its face.
And why not? Chavanel making the best start ever to his professional seasons. Got a clutch of wins already. Here we go back to the Kop van de Wedstrijd. It's a lovely language, Flemish. At the head of the road race is what it means virtually, as we're seeing here the last year's winner, one of the Italians who loves racing in Belgium in the winter. There aren't many Italians like doing it, but those that do usually win. And by the way, Paul Sherwin caught sight of another man who conquers these races quite frequently, or did. Michele Bartoli was at the start today.
Yes, he's a winner of this race and of course of Liège-Bastogne-Liège, and he said, I love Belgium, I like coming up here. It was always like the second home for me when I was racing. Devolder now stripping down, getting ready to race as well. He won't contribute at all to the success of this breakaway. The official time gap was 21 seconds, so it looks a lot less than that. Rick Verbrugge on the front here, a big strong man himself, a winner formerly of the Flecha race, which is going to come up in a couple of weeks' time. Lots of chatting going on here on the race radio because panic is starting to come on board. Boonen will be sitting in this main field just waiting to see how the other teams react, although there's a large number of riders in here from Team High Road. I think they'll be very happy with their performance here this afternoon and content to have big George Hincapie sitting there in 4th place.
Just looking at the faces of those riders, they gave me the impression they've got the breakaway under control, but they don't want to move to shut it down, because if they do, there'll be more attacks. So as we're looking here at these 5 riders, they're still clear, but the big question is for how long. As we look now from the helicopter, we are approaching the Eikemolen, hill number 15, and they are about to be caught here. There they are, and it's been Liquigas doing all of the chasing with a little bit of assistance from Cofidis, and we're off again. As he saw them come up, Stijn Devolder has launched an attack on the Eikemolen. 3 climbs to go, and he's the man to chase again, and again he's taking all of the pressure off Tom Boonen.
Well, as they say in Flemish, a nieuwe aanval van Stijn Devolder. Now what he's trying to do here is completely take the pressure off his own teammate, and if all the big champions start to look at each other, he's got a chance of getting himself a surprise victory here this afternoon. He sat on that group for a little bit of time, Phil, to get himself a little bit of rest and recuperation. Felt this was the right opportune mine, and let's not forget we're looking at 10 kilometers, 6 miles to go to the Mur de Grammont. Everybody's thinking about the Mur and wanting to be economic with their energy. He's not got much left.
Now this is an interesting move, because he might be set up here, he might be left to fry, because nobody has countered the move, so he's got a chance to go alone. And that's another thing for them to ponder on now, because are they going to let the champion of Belgium win the Tour de Flanders, who they think is working for Tom Boonen, the former world champion? As Langeveld here now goes back towards the group, Stijn Devolder continues to ride a brilliant ronde.
Well, as they say in Flemish, this man is a sterke manneke, a strong man, a beast of a man to take the responsibility of a move like that. And as you can see, Silence Lotto now they have to chase. This is the big battle of the Belgian teams in the Belgian race, the Ronde van Vlaanderen. Silence Lotto have to try and pull it all back together. Looks like a response there coming from Pipo Pozzato, who's moved up to the front. He's seen how dangerous that is.
Well, that was Greg van Avermaet of the Silence Lotto team there. He's another youngster with a great future, trying to do something to bring them back together in favour of Leif Hoste. Big Tom has got to the front, freewheels, blocks out the sunlight. and knows that his teammate and champion of his nation is up front. It's a good feeling right now.
It's a great feeling. Just 6 miles, though, to the big climb of the day in the final part of this race, the Mur de Grammont, the very famous Mur. Response now coming from Philippe Gilbert of Team Française des Jeux. He realizes, oops, maybe I've made a tactical boo-boo here this afternoon, and we're not going to let a man like Devolder go clear. Devolder has the advantage, Phil, of being a very good individual time trialist.
He does.
He knows how to ride on his own.
He's never been, to my knowledge, Paul, the champion time trialist of his country, which surprises me because he often wins his races, as he did this year, by winning the time trial and the Tour of the Algarve. And he's here he is as the road race champion of his country.
Tor Hushoft in the green jersey of Crédit Agricole now. They're all starting to think, oh guys, we can win this. We've still got a chance as they go through St. Martins-Lierde. And St. Martins-Lierde is not too far away from the outskirts of Gerardsbergen. It looks to me as if they're trying to muster themselves now to try and get them the organisation into the front end of the field. And still Boonen is sitting there. I think Boonen has got the legs, Phil, to do something special on the Mur de Grammont. But if he can get his teammate to win, he'll play the role properly.
I think it's very generous of Tor Hushoft here, Paul, to actually do some work, because he's working for the team leader. The problem is he is the team leader, and you'd think he'd want to lie back a bit and let the other teams do the chasing.
Well, as he sweeps away there, I think he looked at the faces on all the other riders and thought, we've had a very long, hard chase here this afternoon. Maybe as everybody thinks about the Mur de Grammont, this is the time to go clear. And in fact, he's forced a small group off the front end of the peloton. Again, putting that group of leaders on the defensive.
4 riders chasing here, just about. We might make it 5 or 6 or 7 in a moment's time, but this is now desperate times in this year's Tour de Flanders, and it's been a superb race so far. A little bit of help. I think it's Nick Noyens trying to come through there. This is going to be a difficult counter-attack to make it up.
This is Sylvain Chavanel who's made the move. And he's the man that Team Cofidis were looking for here this afternoon. And this is great to see, because Chavanel for so long has promised to be a good bike rider for France. And finally he's reached maturity. Finally he's riding in these races like the team leader we've always expected him to be.
He comes to this race already with 4 victories this year. He's never done that before. I don't think he's ever won 4 races apart from 2005 in one season. And after he got a stage win in the Tour of the Mediterranean, I think that was at the top of Montferrand, Paul. He got 2nd overall in the Tour of the Algarve. He became the leader of Paris-Nice after a stage win. And then, significantly, his last 2 victories have been right here in Belgium. He's ready for it today.
He's ready for it, but this race is not over. You know, we're looking really at a gap of 20 seconds between Stijn Devolder, the small group of 4 riders in the middle, and the main field behind. It's all going to come together, I think. Tombak is the man who's got into this leading group as well. He really is riding a phenomenal race here this afternoon.
But how on earth did Tombak find the legs, having been in the breakaway all day when they got away on the Kleisberg, which seems last week, but it was only about 2 hours plus ago. And he still found the strength to try again at this stage of the race. Great riding.
Well, there are the 4 chasers. We're looking now at the lone leader, who's got himself 10 seconds advantage over these 4 chasers, who've only got themselves 5 seconds advantage over the front end of the main field, who are just in the chaos behind there of all of the motorbikes in this race.
Well, this race won't lie down today. There's clearly a lot of riders believe that if they play the cards right or get that little bit of luck, make the move and it works, they can win this race, because it seems to be one of those tours where it is uncontrollable.
12 seconds is the advantage of Stijn Devolder over the 4 chasers, and maybe 3 or 4 seconds advantage over the front end of the group coming, which again, Phil, I think has split into a smaller group.
We're looking at 8 riders down there. Looking this way, though, looks to be a few more through the camera from the motorbike. Tor Hushoft swings off the front. And this is Chavanel. Oh dear me, he's gone into the box. He tried to pinch that motorbike and he borrowed ours instead. But well, Chavanel continues on.
It's not his fault. He's not cheating. It's the responsibility of the motorbikes to get out of the way. And there are a lot of motorbikes trying to get themselves the shot of the day here this afternoon. The move that is going to change the result of the overall race here. I can't see Stijn Devolder, but he can't be very far away from those 4 riders. He's probably in the first gaggle of motorbikes just at the top of the picture.
Completely lost now, but he is there. He was just peeping in, and he's got a lead, I would say, 8 to 10 seconds over this group of 4 riders. As we're looking now at Chavanel, the man in the red. Tor Hushoft is here, Quinziato and Yannick Tombak. The race is now bound for climb number 16, the Muur, the wall of Gerardsbergen, and the champion of Belgium is the man who's taking us towards it. We are looking now as we go towards the wall of Gerardsbergen. Remember, we will cross the town first before we start the cobble climb. No change here. We are still chasing Stijn Devolder with 4 riders, and just behind 9 more coming up.
Well, these riders have lost their belief in successful because they're all looking over their shoulders constantly to see the position of the chase group. Well, there it is. It's not much more than 100 meters as we go through the town of Deftinge. And just for a little bit of local knowledge, I just happen to know that Deftinge is the home of Ferdy van den Houten, a former teammate of mine who was also a winner of Gent-Wevelgem.
Used to ride for La Redoute alongside Paul Sherwin. The gaps officially are 18 seconds Stijn Devolder to the chase group we've just seen, and then 28 seconds to the next group. Last time we saw them there were 9, but there might be more by now. Devolder though looks as though he's going to be first onto the wall. There's the chapel, dead centre in your picture. The church at the top, the Kapelmuur, the chapel hill. And it looks as though Stijn Devolder, I wonder how many times he's raced to Gerardsbergen or even trained through here. He's a man of Flanders.
Well, he is an unbelievable man in a solo effort like this. Thor Hushoff now is the next man. There's Yannick Tombak. There you can just see Sylvain Chavanel, but the group are hovering there, waiting for the moment when they can move forward.
Sylvain Chavanel, a Frenchman, can you believe that, in at the kill in the Tour de Flanders. Only 3 French riders have ever won this race, and Chavanel now right there.
That's Cancellara, in fact, in there for Team Liquigas, but all of the other big names are around about 5 seconds in arrears. You can see in that small group there, George Hincapie is very much present, as is Tom Boonen, as is Leif Hoste. The big men are all waiting for to pounce, Phil, and I think they're actually all going to pounce once we get to the Muur, the Kapelmuur, the Muur de Grammont, in 1.8 kilometers time.
The penultimate climb of this year's Tour de Flanders. For many of these riders, it will be their last climb because they'll fall away from the race, really will fall away this time. Hushoff, Chavanel, Quinziato, Tombak, they will get there just behind Stijn Devolder. Hincapie, Boonen, Hoste, big favourites in the group at 28 seconds from the leader, just 10 seconds behind the Hushoff group. It's going to be the grand battle of the stones of the Kapelmuur, and who comes out on top could well run to the finish.
And let's not forget, once they've gone over the top of the Muur with 16 kilometers to go, they've got to figure out who is going to be the boss of the Bosberg. That used to be a man by the name of Edwin van Hooijdonk, but very often the Bosberg, the final climb of the day at just 12 kilometers remaining, tells you who has got the strong legs in the Tour of Flanders.
That is the last climb where the strong riders put the nails in the coffin of the others, as now CSC are still trying to drag Fabian Cancellara back into the fray here. Just look at the speed of that bunch. They're showing no respect at all for the climb which lies ahead here in Gerardsbergen as we race through the marketplace. So it looks like we're going to head down to Gerardsbergen, split by 28 seconds the spread between Stijn Devolder and the Hincapie group. We are now in the streets of Gerardsbergen as the look at the crowd here. This is the narrow approach to hill number 16 of 17 climbs, but this is the brute, the 5-star here, climb of the wall. No change at the moment. We've got 1 leader, 4 chasers, and then Hincapie in that bunch there. That's the situation. They snap back. Hushoff, Chavanel, Quinziato, Tombak. There's now 1 against the rest.
Well, one man is hoping to survive the Kop van de Wedstrijd. He would certainly like to see that. He's a Flemish-speaking rider. He knows this is the front of the bike race. If you think that the popularity of the sport of professional cycling is diminishing in Europe, just have a look at this. The crowds have turned out on the town square here. This is right in the bottom of the climb of Gerardsbergen. He'll go through the town square, over the place, and then he'll take the famous right-hand bend onto the Muur itself. 19.8% is the maximum gradient. It says 475 meters, but it's a lot longer than that from Gerardsbergen in the bottom to Kapelmuur in the top.
This is a very, very cruel climb here, and the pictures are sprinkled over the 100 years of the Tour de Flanders. Well, nearly 100 years. It's 100 years if you take out the World Wars. And now they're seeing the champion of Belgium fly the flag all the way up the cobblestones here. Reaction coming yet again now because they picked up Quinziato. Liquigas still think they can win with Pizzato.
Well, in the middle there, in the dark black and red jersey of Silence Lotte, was Leif Hoste, but this man is trying to survive. Juan Antonio Flecha now, he loves this bike race. He wants to make the move. Fabian Cancellara on his shoulder. I don't think I've ever seen a Spanish rider dominate the Muur de Grammont like this.
Well, he's come here to win, and as he's told us, no Spanish riders made the first 10 throughout the history of the Tour de Flanders. He's in the making here. He's had a second in Paris-Roubaix, second in Het Volk, but he'd love to repeat all of that with a second in the Tour of Flanders. This is a big move here, because look at this. This is the most unusual climb here, because they're not putting down the hammer like we thought.
Well, they haven't got to the real steep part of the climb yet. Tom Boonen was in there over to the left-hand side, looking nice and comfortable. He won't make any big moves at all here, Phil, because he will still defend the position of Stijn Devolder. These guys have still got to catch the champion of Belgium.
Well, this looks like it might be Christian Knies here of Germany who's made a move for Milram. He's got over the top first, but they've made rather little of that hill, a lot less than we thought. Look at the group coming up, Paul. That's most unusual. Now, meanwhile, at the front, the second kick of the climb.
Well, it seems like Chavanel has slipped to the back end of this group, but this is a great move here. He's come first onto this massive climb of the Mur de Grammont, the wall of Gerardsbergen. You can see how difficult the climb is, but he's still got the power, he's still got the punch in those pedals, and he still does not have that group behind him. He could survive, and that would be a monumental ride.
I've never seen Devolder ride like this. All day long, I've been convinced he's been softening the field up for Tom Boonen to bite back at the finish. But this man is now committed here, and Boonen won't chase him down. He'd be delighted if Stijn Devolder won this race. This is the narrow, horrible little section, the section where Paul Sherwin used to walk in the days of the Tour de Flanders, but it normally reduces men to mortals here. And look at Juan Antonio Flecha. He's seen his team work for him all day, but at the end of everything, it comes down to the leader to do it himself.
Coming after him there is Nick Noyens, there is Tom Boonen, Alessandro Ballan, Fabian Cancellara, all of the big names. There is Pipo Pozzato coming up to the front as well.
And third up the climb is Vladimir Gusev, who's also moving up into the action. There's the chapel, and once you see the chapel, no bells ringing, but you go over the top, and there's no real big descent off the top of this either. And this is the group, and there is the chase group continuing now as they try to close down. Desperate moments now in the Tour of Flanders.
Nick Noyens, but look at Tom Boonen there. He's on the defensive. He's sitting there waiting to see Alessandro Ballan struggling, but he's slightly injured, but he won't give up. He's a proud bike rider. The man in there for Team Milram, by the way, is Nicky Terpstra, again trying to keep himself in this bike race. Had a little bit of bad luck, but everybody wants to ride well in the Ronde van Vlaanderen. You do not give up. You fight all the way. There's Hincapie coming round now, still looking pretty confident, still in with a chance of a top 10 or 15 position.
Well, it's going to have to reassess exactly where they sit in this race once they're over the top of this climb now, because did you see the face there on Alessandro Ballan, gritting his teeth, but very much in contact with the head of this race and looking like he's heading towards a big finish once more. But this rider is now onto good roads here. He's bound for the final climb of the day, the Bosberg, and it's a 4-star climb. And it's not so severe, but it's where it's placed on the course that makes it so vital to the format.
Well, that's right. It's 3 kilometers after the Mur de Grammont. It's a very wide road, but from the top of the Bosberg, there's just 12 kilometers to go to the finish. You can see here there's a massive move by Team Astana, but in the group behind, Juan Antonio Flecha is shadowed there by Tom Boonen, Alessandro Ballan, and this is the man they all want to catch. They're coming now out of Gerardsbergen, and this is Devolder now just sitting up. I think he was looking for a bottle, he was looking for some assistance, but he's got to keep himself in that individual time trial position. Boonen, Phil, to me, still looks good.
Well, the weather today almost as unpredictable as the race itself. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll rejoin the action as the riders head now to the Bosberg. We are just under the banner as we've started now the final climb of the day, which is the Bosberg. It's 4 stars, but it's crucial now to the combination of the race. And we're looking at Stijn Devolder clear on the climb through Gerardsbergen over the Muur. Tom Boonen has joined a chase group of 6, which is Gregory Rast of Astana, Fletcher of Rabobank, Noyens and Companies, Ballan last year's winner, Boonen, and there's going to be a counter move immediately from the group as they approach the climb.
Well, this is young Langeveld once again. He doesn't care at all about this bike race. He's really found something special, but they've lost more time. It's 20 seconds now to Stijn Devolder. Tom Boonen just sitting there. Carry on, guys. You're the big names in the sport. You want to win, you chase. I'm just sitting here.
Well, this is an interesting move now, but where is Sebastian finding the legs at his age? 22 years of age, 23 next December. A man of the future for sure. Stijn Devolder, well, he's not quite as young as Langevelde, but he's certainly a star today. There's the climb now up through the woods here. It's a good road surface, and once we're over the top, it's all man for himself as they race towards the finish.
Well, it's just inside of 1,000 meters in length. It's 11% at the maximum part of the climb and an average of 6%, but more importantly, I think, Phil, the summit is just 12 kilometers to go.
It looks like curtains for that chase group. Leif Hoste was off to the right. I think he's done for. He's looking very tired. The chase mare finished him off. Sebastian Langeveld here trying to lead that very select group of riders. And, well, I said it was smooth, but I forgot about the little bit at the top. They're not severe, these cobblestones, but they do shake you around just a bit.
Well, he's got himself 20 seconds. If he's got 20 or 25 seconds at the top of this climb of the Bosberg, he's got a very good chance of going down towards the finish line as the winner, wearing the resplendent jersey of champion of Belgium on his shoulders. But it's still a tall order. He's being chased in second place here by Langeveld. But there are a lot of big names in that group with Tom Boonen, Phil, and I think they may well get themselves organised over the summit here of the Bosberg.
Well, there he is, and there is the distance, and the group more or less together behind here now as he comes up towards the top of the climb. Is he just still a carrot for Boonen to just come by and win the race, or is he actually going for gold himself? It's up to the race behind. They are the only ones with the answer now. Sebastian Langevelde, another faithful teammate all day, still dictating affairs in second.
Well, isn't it funny how the camera does tell a few lies there? It looked as if he was riding very easily across the gap, but he's only halved it, because as he rides off the cobblestones, he's looking for 10 seconds to find the man at the front of this race, and the group behind him are really only looking for 20. This race is far from over, and this man now has to compose himself and get back into that time trialing position, but his body must be screaming out for surrender.
Well, there is the group, and Leif Hoste, I think, has joined this leading group, and I'm just hearing on race radio that Fabian Cancellara has been dropped here. So the pressure today is affecting riders in very strange ways. The sun is out now, they're all ready for a sunshine finish. The finish not very far away, but it's still a matter of chase and chase. There's no respite here. Nobody's getting chance to recover, to put in their own attack.
Well, this man now, Stijn Devolder, champion of Belgium, formerly a Discovery Channel rider from last year, is now trying to win himself, I would say, his biggest ever victory after, of course, the Belgian National Championships. But sometimes the Belgians regard the Tour of Flanders as even bigger than the championship of their own country or the championship of the world, because it is their own personal world championships. He's got 10 seconds advantage. That really is not enough to win. They've dropped the neutral service car there to get behind him. That's to assist him if he has a flat tire or a mechanical incident. Well, he's got himself, according to race radio, 28 seconds, but I calculated only 20 when they summited.
Well, the spread is across 40 seconds now, which is not very much, is it? We're still a little way to ride down to the finish. Devolder's got 18 seconds over Sebastian Langeveld. There he is. 28 seconds over the group containing Tom Boonen and last year's winner Alessandro Ballan, and 40 seconds to what is left of the Tour de Flanders.
There is Fabian Cancellara. He's winning the group there with, of course, Tom Boonen. Flecha now was looking to get himself a podium position. Now's the moment where they're all starting to play that little tactical game. Will I chase? Should I chase? I'm losing the Tour of Flanders, and if they don't get themselves organised, they have lost the Tour of Flanders here. Leif Hoste, Phil, as you said, is definitely in the group, and he's done a good move to get himself back into this bike race after all of the bad luck that he's had.
Well, Cancellara, having thought he was dropped, in fact, they must have been saying in Flemish he was catching that group. He's obviously joined it, and also Leif Hoste should be there. We'll wait for confirmation when we see that group, but I think they've crossed the gap and have joined that chasing group. There's certainly more riders there than were there before. One rider out in front, 10 kilometers to go, 6 miles from the finish, around about 12 to 13 minutes to race. That's all Stijn Devolder that stands between him and the greatest moment of his life.
Well, we're still looking at 10 to 12 seconds at disadvantage for the rider in second position there, and it is around about 25 seconds to the group of Cancellara and Tom Boonen. Again, well, another. Oh, that was a very nasty move there. The motorbikes are getting a little bit too race there, and that move, indication by Gregory Ras, was a sign of not being too happy with the motorbike driver.
I think that's what he meant, yeah. Very polite young man. As we now see the one man here, resplendent in the in the colours of his national champion's jersey. And what better colours to show to the Belgians. They're all smiles, I can tell you, looking out of our comedy box here. There's a huge grandstand. There must be 500-600 people in the grandstands here, and they're all just one big smile right now. And this rider's not looking like cracking.
Well, what a man Tom Boonen in that second group behind there, Phil. He is riding as an incredible teammate. He really wants to win this race. He writes his name into the history books if he could win it for a third time, but he's giving everything up to try and give the advantage to his man at the front.
And just look at this rider here, Sebastian Langerfeldt. He's riding about 15 seconds, if that, ahead of the chase group, which has been strengthened by Cancellara certainly, and Leif Hoste, we believe, and he's holding them off. He's also doing the ride of his life. Inside 10 kilometers to go. The champion out front. Second place is Langerfeldt, and then this very select group containing the winner from a year ago, Alessandro Ballan. His last 3 rides here in Flanders, 1st, 5th and 6th.
Well, he loves this race, he certainly does. This young man is making a name for himself. We'll see him come back to the Belgian Flanders again in the future, because as you've said a number of times this afternoon, he's not going to be 23 years old until December of this year, but he seems to be losing a little bit of his impetus, and this man, as he gets closer to the finish, Stijn Devolder, will find some strength, the kind of strength that you can only find when you know you're on the edge of a massive performance, and that's what he's on the edge of here this afternoon. His body will all of a sudden start to go numb. He won't feel that pain anymore, because he'll know he can keep this pressure going for those incredible 10 more minutes that remain for him.
Well, yet another classic Tour de Flanders, and it's not over yet. We'll take another break. When we come back, we'll be heading to the finishing line in Ninove-Meerbeke. Well, I've never seen a finale to a Tour de Flanders quite like this one. Everybody is on their upper limits right now, and there's so many new names attacking the favourites. Let's have a little swing round here. They come again. They're coming back together, I think. Very shortly, it is going to be everyone. Nick Noyen's trying to get across the gap. It's going to be everyone against Stijn Devolder, I think. Also moving up, Big Tom, gritting his teeth. Every right to follow the wheels. He's not damaging Devolder's lead, and that's the plan. Also in this group, you can see now, is Hincapie also getting across. It is still anybody's race, Paul.
It's anybody's race, and now they've pulled Langerfeldt back into the fold, and we'll see. I would like to think that these teams will get themselves a little bit organised. One man who won't join the organisation or the party will be Tom Boonen, because he wants the party to be on board of Team Quickstep in the bus here this afternoon. Now getting out of the saddle, fighting. You can feel the tension in the crowd mounting here. They want a Flandrian to win. They want a Belgian to win, and they're applauding every time they see him on the big screen.
I'm laughing because I think we just had 3 cheers on the finishing line here for Stijn Devolder. They're certainly shouting out there. It's a bit premature, I believe, at the moment, because these boys have not given up. Yet Stijn Devolder is Juan Antonio Flecha, another desperate move here to try and crack the field and make the move. You know, Stijn Devolder has never been a man for the single-day classics. He's a man for the stage races. He's won quite a few in his life. He's had 13 wins, but this might be a move on to lucky 14 for him. Well, he's won only a stage in the Tour of Italy, a Tour of Spain rather, where he wore the golden jersey in that race. But basically, he's never been a man to score on a one-day classic.
Well, Flecha has made the move here. Fabian Cancellara started to chase him down, but he was immediately covered by Boonen, so he turned off the chase and the pacemaking at the front. They're getting a little bit frustrated there with Tom Boonen, because after all, he's playing the defensive role. He's putting everything to the one side, but there is the neutral service car in front. There is Leif Hoste now. He's going to try and make the move. You know, Phil, this could all come back together inside the final kilometre. This is the second place rider on the road, Juan Antonio Flecha. He's only looking for 10 seconds.
We're looking now at the last desperate moments here of all of the favourites in the Tour de Flanders, chasing the champion of Belgium, Stijn Devolder, and the man who's closest to him now is the big Spanish favourite, Juan Antonio Flecha. But Boonen is still back in that group and just waiting for the chance to counter the move, I feel sure.
Well, it's not very much more than 10 seconds there. You can see the blue neutral service vehicle behind this man, Stijn Devolder. 10 seconds back to Juan Antonio Flecha, who, if he catches Stijn Devolder, I am sure will go on to win this race, but still only another 5 or 6 seconds behind are still all of the big favourites.
Well, this is a duo battle and it's far from decided. There is Juan Antonio Flecha trying to become the first Spanish rider to crack the top 10 ever in the Tour de Flanders, and more than that, he's trying to win the race for Spain. He's threatened it last year, second in Het Volk, second he was in Paris-Roubaix, and he could well be second in the Tour de Flanders right now.
Well, he's pulling himself inside out. This is a final false flat here just on the outskirts of Ninove as we now look to get down to the flat part of the course and the running towards the final kilometre. But I've never seen Flecha pull his body apart like that. He realizes he's on the edge of something very famous indeed for a Spanish rider. They're pulling out now the neutral service vehicle as we pull back. We're looking for 5 seconds here for Juan Antonio Flecha. He's going to catch him before the end, and then what's going to happen?
Well, it's happened to Stijn Devolder. Sorry, I was thinking of Leif Hoste. It's happened to Leif Hoste before, being caught in sight of the line, so he knows what it's like to finish second. He's got himself into that chase group behind, but it may not be good enough now. I think that was 4 kilometres to go to the finish here. At just 4 kilometres, 2.5 miles to the line for Stijn Devolder. He really has been a superb man at this race. No way is he a fortunate winner. He has led over most of the climbs today.
He's looking 5.5 minutes of effort left down towards the finish line. This is the false flat on the outskirts of Ninove and Meerbeke. And there, this man is looking at the carrot in front of the donkey. The carrot on this occasion is Stijn Devolder, the national champion of Belgium, who is hoping to win this bike race here this afternoon. But look at Flecha. Look at his body. He's pulling himself any which way he can. He's a contortionist trying to get as much power out of that body as possible.
Well, let's remember that Stijn Devolder last year won the Tour of Austria by virtue of his great time trialling skills on stage 7. This year he won the Tour de Algarve, same reason, his time trialling skills on stage number 4. Now he's having to time trial to take out the greatest classic of them all.
Nick Nuyens is coming across the gap now as well for Cofidis. So we've got in the first 3 places on the road 3 individual riders. There's Nuyens, number 65 in the red shorts of Team Cofidis. We are now looking at just 3 kilometres left to go to the finish. Nuyens looks over his shoulder. This is so terribly desperate for the man that I think we all want to win now, Stijn Devolder, because he's been at the front of this bike race over all of the big climbs. He's worked like a Trojan for his team leader, Tom Boonen, and now he may well lose it in the final 1,000 yards.
Nick Nuyens, who knows what it's like to break the top 10. He was 7th in this race 1 year ago. Fletcher's seen him coming. This will be something of a light relief for Juan Antonio, because he could do with a break right now, because look up the road and Stijn Devolder is still riding them off his wheel and out of sight. The kilometres are ticking off here. Soon it'll be the right turn. Then he will see the finish, and then he will know what it's like as a champion of Belgium to win the Tour de Flanders. But it's not over yet. Look at that blanket finish.
You've got the whole of the race there, Phil, in about 20 seconds. These are the 2 chasers now, and a little bit of assistance coming from Juan Antonio Flecha. Nick Nuyens, a Belgian, is chasing down a Belgian. That's always a difficult thing in the press the next day, but it's all about winning this bike race. At this stage of the game, it's nothing to do with what country you come from. At 2 kilometres to go, it's about getting across the line and winning. It doesn't matter where you're from.
Under the 2 kilometre banner, another huge crowd here, another huge cheer rather from the crowd. 2 kilometres inside, 2 miles to go, what, just over 1 mile in fact. The tandem now is a Spanish-Belgium tandem, and if they don't get up there in the next 1,000 metres, they're racing for 2nd place. I don't think they'll close it now.
It's 14 seconds officially to the 2 chasers there, who are looking a little bit raggedy, and this man, we've said a number of times, is a very good individual time trialist. It's 24 seconds back to the group containing Tom Boonen. Every time he puts his head down, he gets himself into that time trialing position. He makes himself a little bit more aero. His body must be going through turmoil at the moment, but if he can get to that finishing corner in first place, he knows he's got this in the bag, and what a great victory for a Flandrian.
Well, the way these boys are looking over the shoulders as they still try to finish it off here, they are racing for 2nd place and worried about the chase from behind. I think Stijn Devolder has pulled off the big coup today. He's ridden this race in favour of Boonen, and he's going to finish it off for himself. Absolutely superb demonstration. Oops, nearly overshot that one.
Well, he's getting a little bit nervous. That's something that he's been waiting for. He looks over his shoulder. He allows himself the advantage to look back and see what the gap is. 1 kilometre to go, and he's looking at a 10-second advantage. He's not going to be able to enjoy this coming up the finishing straight, because he's going to have to go and take it all the way to the line. Here are the chasers. Flecha now looks over his shoulders too to see Nick Noyens a little bit further back. They know the group are there. This is a desperate struggle, but I think he's finally got this one in the bag.
Well, he's not the first champion of Belgium to cross the line wearing the national champion's jersey, but he certainly is going to be very special here. He's now 27 years of age, 28 years of age now, Stijn Devolder. His birthday coming in August this year, just after the end of the Olympic Games in Beijing, where I'm sure he'll be going after a demonstration like this on a one-day race. He's never before approached victory in a one-day classic race, and now he's approaching the finishing line as the winner of an absolute vintage edition of the Ronde van Vlaanderen. He deserves it.
He certainly deserves this, and there you can see the two chasers. Now he can look over his shoulder. He knows he's got it. That's the moment of victory. That's the moment of great enjoyment.
Well, Stijn Devolder, as champion, takes the victory today. He doesn't believe it. He never raced for the win today. It came his way 3 hills out, and he never looked back. There's the big crowd have cheered him all the way home, and a huge, huge grin on all of their faces as Stijn Devolder crosses the line. The sprint for second place here. Well, Juan Antonio Flecha will get third behind Nick Noyens, but that's the best finish ever by a Spanish cyclist in the history of this event. But that's the way the race has been today, and it's finished off in a very tight sprint there, and George Hincapie, with a smile on his face, has finished alongside Alessandro Ballan.
But I noticed there Tom Boonen was very happy to sit up and celebrate there. Great win for Patrick Lefevre in there with his team as well, because tactically, they rode a superb race here this afternoon. This man rode with sheer courage, though, Stijn Devolder, over those final few kilometres. I'll tell you one thing, Phil, tomorrow morning, he's going to have a sore body.
Well, you can bet your life, but it'll be a happy one. He might have a sore tummy too, because I'm sure he'll be celebrating tonight here in the town, as only the Belgians can. This is a wonderful country to be a champion in the sport of cycling. And Stijn Devolder now looks as though he's about to break down here as reality dawns. He has just won a terrific version of the Ronde van Vlaanderen.
Well, he certainly has done that, and you know, he knew all the time in the back of his mind if he was to fail, he could still count upon Tom Boonen. But Boonen, I think, tonight will be just as happy as if he'd won this bike race himself.
So the Tour de Flanders is history for the year 2008 as the champion of Belgium, Stijn Devolder. Well, he's just become the 65th Belgian to win this event. He should be happy with that. So the result of the 92nd running of the Ronde van Vlaanderen, a 1-2 for Belgium, with Stijn Devolder ahead of Nick Noyens, the first Spanish rider ever on the podium, Juan Antonio Flecha. Alessandro Ballan getting fourth, the winner last year. That means in his last 4 years here, a first, fourth, fifth and sixth. George Hincapie in fifth place, Mr. Consistent again in at the kill. Looking further down, Pizzato in sixth and Kurt Attel-Arvidsson in seventh. The Slipstream Chipotle boys, they had a tough baptism today, but they will be back to claim higher finishes, you bet. Well, let's have a look now at the Avis try-harder move of the day, and I don't think there was any doubt once he made his move, he was on the climb here of the Kapelmuur when he was supposed to get caught, that Stijn Devolder kept in the saddle, kept the pressure on, and all of a sudden he realised this was his race to lose. And by the time he got to the finish, he couldn't believe it as he waved to the crowd and raced up towards the finishing line. Stijn Devolder, the champion of Belgium, won the day. And that's the Avis try-harder move of the day. And there can't be a better feeling. You're a champion of Belgium and you've just won the biggest classic race. Stijn Devolder steps up into the #1 position. He's never been placed in a classic before, and now he's moved right into the top slot. And he's flanked here by the first ever Spanish rider on the right there, Juan Antonio Flecha, to stand on the podium. And Nick Noyens, who finished 7th last year, but has got himself 2nd place this time around. So it's been a terrific race, and it's fair to say that anybody that wanted to climb a place on the podium today really had to ride from the front. There was no shadow boxing. Simply the best 3 riders triumphed in the Tour de Flanders. And there is a huge crowd here today. And a little twist of irony, after the hailstorms out on the course, it is now a beautiful, clear spring day. And they're toasting a champion in first place, Stijn Devolder. Paul Sherman's left my side, and I think he's managed to find a rather tired George Hincapie. Let's go down to Paul.
Well, George, you rode with all the right moves today, but unfortunately you missed the one when Stijn Devolder went at the end.
Yeah, we had a good breakaway with the 5 of us going, and Stijn wasn't working. Obviously, because he had Boonen behind, it was a really the only tactic they can play. And as we were getting caught, Stijn played took a risk, went in the break, and he was gone. He rode an awesome race, and I'm happy for him.
Strangely, he's a former teammate of yours, but at the end when he moved, was it because the main group was so close behind you thought, well, they're going to chase him down? Yeah, well, we were getting caught, and he went as soon as we were getting caught. And, you know, quick at the time, Liquid Gas and Cofidis were chasing, and I guess they put in a big effort to catch us. So once they caught us, and Stijn was gone, they had nothing left, and it was really a good move. You must be happy with the form, though, because you showed you were able to go with all the right moves, and you were with every move apart from the one of Devolder's. Happy for the form? Yeah, you know, today was extremely tough race. My legs were not the best they've been, but I'm happy with the way they went, and hopefully next Sunday I'll be a lot better. I think riding a race like this and seeing you had so many teammates in the group behind you gives you good confidence for Paris-Roubaix. Yeah, the team's awesome. We got some really experienced riders on this team. We all get along well, and we all just want to win the races. So you've had no bad luck, everything's been fine. What about Gent-Wevelgem? Will you just ride that easily and just concentrate on Paris-Roubaix? Yeah, we'll see what happens on Wednesday. Definitely main focus is Roubaix on Sunday, so if I don't want to kill myself on Wednesday, spend too much energy there. Thanks, George. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Paul.
Well, really, it's another great performance by George Hincapie. He was at the front all day. In the end, didn't quite work out for him, but he's back again, of course, in Paris-Roubaix, where he's always a star of that race, and we'll bring you pictures of that on April the 20th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. As the Queen of the Classics, make a note of the date and time, April the 20th at 4 Eastern. And don't forget to go to our website at versus.com, interviews there with Stuart O'Grady and with George in depth. Well, it's been a great day, and of course for Belgium, a great result with Stijn Devolder and Nick Noyens. For me, though, and for Paul Sherwin, it's goodbye from Belgium, and we'll see you again when we come back to you from France. Goodbye.